Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to cover a business rule use case. The problem statement or the use case that we have here is, we have to prevent users from setting the when needed field to pass dated value while creating a NeedIt application. So our use case here in a detailed manner, when you are requesting something for human resource department, facilities, or some legal help, and you are having an option when needed, it is a date field which you're going to pick to get an idea to the requester or the team who is working on this request when you are expecting this request to be completed. But if you pick that value to the backdated value, that is not valid date anymore, because you are creating today and you cannot expect this to be completed in a week back, right? So right now we have to place some validation or sanity check while users creating this NeedIt request, and we should allow these NeedIt applications to be created not the past dates. So for that, we are going to create a business rule. And before we create a business rule, let's go to the NeedIt application and see if we are able to reproduce that issue. NeedIt applications, NeedIt table, create a new record. Create a new record. And this is a requester for facilities, and this is requester for security. And I would like to need this for, let's say my intention is 17, by mistake I've selected 8, the old dated, and I'm giving an information that I want the new access card. And let's save this. So right now system is allowing us to pick the backdated value. This is not correct. We should not allow if the when needed date field is the old date value. So we have to write a business rule for this. I already opened the NeedIt application in our application studio. Let's create a new file, and here we are going to create the business rule. Let's create the business rule. We already discussed in another video about the configuration options that are available in business rule page. So if you have not watched it, I'd recommend to watch it. And let's give a meaningful name to this business rule. Let's give a meaningful name to this business rule. Validate when needed date. Validate when needed date. And this should be on which table? This should be on NeedIt table. They should be on NeedIt table, and we don't see all the options because we haven't clicked the advanced. Let's click on the advanced. So right now we have to decide when we want to run this business rule. Is it a before business rule or after business rule, or async business rule? Then on what database operations we want to execute this business rule. So this business rule we have just created, this business rule that we just created, it is on the same record. We are trying to validate that. So this validation should be happening before data is stored into the table of NeedIt application. So that means that it is a before business rule. Then if it is a before business rule, what database operations that I want to run this? Is it for insert, it is for update, or it is for delete? Ideally in our case, we would like to run this for both insert and update operations. Both insert and update operations, and that's it for the when to run. But when we go to the actions, is there something that is useful for us? No, it's not useful. We are not setting any values, we are not adding a message, or we are not aborting this. For that, let's go to the script directly and do our scripting here. But before doing this, what exactly we are doing here? We are trying to compare the dates. Is there any API that will be helpful for us to do the date operations? And we are doing this in a custom application. So to go to this reference in the developer side, and if it is a global application, you will go to the server global APIs. If it is a server scope or the custom application, we have to go to the server scope app and try to see if there is any API available for us for the date and time operations. Date time. Yes, we have this GlideDateTime API. This GlideDateTime API, what is saying? The scope GlideDateTime class provides methods for performing operations on glide date and time objects. That's what we wanted. But what exactly we want? We want to compare the two dates. Compare the dates against the current date. So let's see what is this after and what is this before. This after determines if the GlideDateTime object's date occurs after the specified object's date and time. That's correct. We want to check if the current date is after, before current date or after current date. So this gives after. For example, if it is a futuristic date, we can also use this, or let's go to the other method, before. Determines if the glide date and time object's date occurs before the specified glide date and time objects. This is what exactly we want. We want to check if the when needed date is less than the current date. So you have the two dates and you can do that operations by using this method. So let's go here and try to develop this logic for it. So I would like to get the current time. What is the current time? For that, I'm going to instantiate this glide date and time. So this glide date and time gives me the current time when the business rules is executing. Then next I would like to know when needed date and time. So new glide date and time, by passing this current object when needed field value to the glide date and time, we are converting that into a when needed. The glide and date and time converts that and will give the date and time to compare between these two fields. Then if when needed before of right now, the current time, that means that if it is a old value, then we have to add a message. To add a message, we have like few methods available, but this is an error message. So I'm going to pick this add error message, and the message that we would like to show to the user is when needed must be future date. You cannot, your request has not been saved to database. And then we have to abort that operations. Current dot set abort action to true. Save this. Let's save this business rule and try to create a new NeedIt application. Let's go to the NeedIt applications table. And create new. And this will be human resource, and this will be payslips, and when needed, let's give the backdated. Today is 11th, I'm going to give 9th. Need payslips and try to save it. Right. So when needed must be a future test date. Your request has not been saved to the database. This is what we want to show this as an error message. But what is this invalid insert? This is actually coming from set abort action, because we are aborting this action of inserting into the database in middle. So that is the invalid insert message is coming from set abort. So this is one thing. For example, if I'm going to try the current time, this 11, today is 11, which should allow me to get this value. For example, let's say 21 and save this. So it is allowing me to create an NeedIt application for today. Is that expected? I'm going to create a request. I'm expecting that to be completed. Is that a valid? No. So let's enhance this business rule so that we don't want user to create when needed date for the same day. So when needed date should be a futuristic date. That means that it shouldn't be for today and it shouldn't be for the past, but it should be a futuristic date. It should be a futuristic date. Let's go ahead and enhance our business role that we created. So if it is a before, we have to change this message a bit more. When needed date cannot be in the past. Your request has not been saved to the database. That's okay. Then we have to check whether that request is for current today or not. To do that, let's go here. We have to get the date. We have to get the date of the current date. So to get the current date, so where today is we can use a right now variable dot get local date. Get local date. What is this get local date it gives to us? Let's go here and we can do a Google search. What is get, or we can ask the documentation as well. So gets the date stored by the GlideDateTime object. By GlideDateTime object. Let's go here. We get the local date. From here, let's try to get what is today. What is today? So this is from when needed. I'm going to get the get local date and time from today date. So I'm getting the local time from right now and when needed. I should try to compare these two dates. If today compared to, I'm comparing these both local times of right now as well as the when needed, because when needed we stored in this is today, and compares these two dates and gives you the number in return. If it is 0, that means that these two dates are on the same, that means that it's for the current day. Then we have to add an error message saying that you cannot submit NeedIt requests for today. And let's go here and abort the operation. Current set abort action to true and save this. Let's go and see what is this compared to does here. Method does. What is the definition of it? Compared to. So compare two dates and time objects to determine whether they are equivalent or one occurs before or after the other. So if it is 0, dates are equal. If it is 1, the date is after the date specified in the parameter. If it is -1, the object's date is before the date specified in the parameter. So what the condition that we have checked? If dates are equal, that means that current date. So this is the condition that we have used. Let's go here and try to test this one more time. Let's give the old date and save this. And when needed date cannot be passed, that's okay. Let's give the today's date and you should not allow as well. Save this. Okay. It is allowed to store this. Okay. Today compared to is day. Okay, let's do this. Did we create it for both insert and update? Fine. And the date that we are in, 12. Save. Let's go here and pick the 10. That's okay. When needed cannot be passed. Let's go here and select 11. Okay, you cannot submit the needed request for today. So if we are trying to give the futuristic date, it should allow.